Hi my dear children, I hope you all are safe at home, right? Yes, I think you all are doing your self-assessment for each and every chapters, isn't it? So once the video is over, I think you all are doing each lesson self-assessment so that the self-assessment will be useful for you to do the semester examination, that is your term 1 examination, right. So, your term 1 examination will be having the questions from lesson 1 to lesson 6, right. So, now we are going to see your second term, that is your new term. So, your new term, your first lesson, that is your 7th lesson in your book is about animal world, right. So, I am Nirmala from Bharathidhasanar Matric Higher Secondary School signing in to make you understand about animal world. Come on, let's see. So, your 7th lesson in your 5th standard, your 7th lesson is about animal world, right. What is this animal world? So, first we have to understand what is animal world. Before that, we need to know some terms in that lesson, right. So, first I am going to ask you some questions. Are you ready to answer? Yes, okay. Now, tell me, where do we all live? Morally, tell me, where do we all live? Okay, yes, of course, we all live on the earth, very good, right. But during the night time, so when we want to protect ourselves from the cold or from the rain or from anything, we at home we sleep, right. So, where do we all protect ourselves? Where do we live inside? Yes, of course, we all live in our house, right. So, the home, the house, the home is a place that keeps us safe, right. So, when we are at home, we feel very safe and we feel very happy, right, because the place where we live is very comfortable to us, right. So, that word is known as habitat. So, first we are going to see about habitat. So, H-A-B-I-T-A-T. So, our home, our house is a habitat for us. So, where we roam, like maybe in our area, right. So, in our street, right, in our house. So, that place where we live, where we naturally live in that place with all the comfortable situations. So, that place is called as habitat, right. So, we are going to see in this lesson, we are going to see about animal world, right. So, of course, for us home, that is the house is a habitat, right. So, the same way animals, there are many animals that they live in different places. We cannot say a dog will live in a forest, right. Yes, the same way a tiger cannot live in a city, right. The same way animals, they also has a habitat, right. So, this habitat is known as the place where an animal lives naturally is called as habitat, right. So, first we will write the definition of habitat, right. Yes. So, first what is habitat? So, habitat is a place, it is a place. So, habitat means it always refers to place, it is a place, Edam, right. So, habitat is a place where an animal, so where an animal lives naturally. So, இயற்கையாவே அந்த அனிமல், அந்த மிருகம் வந்து அந்த இடத்துல வந்து பிறந்து வளரும், ஓகேவா. So, that place is called as habitat, right. So, we can say a lion lives in a den, right. So, a lion lives in a forest. So, the forest becomes the habitat for the animal, right. So, now we are going to see in this habitat there are many places. So, in this earth, the earth comprises many habitats, right. So, we are going to see the types of habitat first. So, because before knowing about the animal's habitat, you should know the types of the places, the types of the habitat that the animals live, right. So, first we are going to see the types of habitat. So, the first one, mountains. So, the place where we can see many mountains, okay. So, that place is called as a mountain ranges, and a place where there is full of trees and full of plants, right. So, these places are called as forest, right. So, the first one, mountain, M-O-U-N-T-A-I-N. So, some animals live in mountain, some animals they live in forest, F-O-R-E-S-T, forest. Desert, D-E-S-E-R-T, desert. Polar regions, P-O-L-A-R-R-E-G-I-O-N-S, polar regions. Ocean, O-C-E-A-N, ocean. Seas, of course, it both comes under oceans only, and then rivers, right. So, these are all the habitats that we are going to see. Let us see. So, first one, it is about forest, right. So, forest, you can see many trees in the forest, right. So, in the forest some animals like we can say a zebra or a lion, even the animals like monkeys, birds, they live in the forest, right. And also some animals like snake and moles, they live inside the ground of the forest, right. So, forest is a place, right. A forest is a habitat. And then mountains. So, in the mountain regions also many animals they live. And then desert. So, desert is a dry place. So, it is full of sand. So, it is a dry place. So, dry land with sand. So, we can say some animals they live in the desert. For example, camel. So, camel they live in the desert, right, but we cannot see camel in the forest or in the mountain, right. So, the camel habitat is desert, right. The same way we are going to see what are the animals that they live in the desert. So, next habitat is polar regions. So, polar regions are the regions where it is extremely cold and it is with full of ice, right. So, polar regions are the regions that has full of ice and they are extremely cold. So, extremely cold and icebergs will be there. Pani paregal they will say, right. So, all the icebergs, so ice will be present in the polar region. So, in the polar regions we can see some animals they live in the polar regions. For example, polar bear. So, polar bear live in the polar region, but polar bear cannot live in a ocean or cannot live in a rivers, right. Then we are going to see about ocean. So, ocean is a large mass of land on our earth, right. So, our earth comprises of nearly the most of our land comprises of ocean, right. So, ocean is a large mass of large place that occupies, right. So, this ocean contains water which is saline. So, saline is nothing but salty water. So, you can see salty water is present in the ocean. And the next one we are going to see about rivers or the we can say fresh water habitat. So, it is generally called as fresh water. Why it is called as fresh water habitat? Because in rivers or lakes or ponds we can see the water will be normal, it will not be salty water, it will be normal. So, that is why rivers and lakes they are called as fresh water habitat. So, many animals live in fresh water habitat. So, now let us see what are the animals that they live in these types of habitat. So, come on, let us see. So, that is what we discussed, right, the place where an animal lives naturally. So, some animals they live on land, they are called as terrestrial animals. So generally they are called as terrestrial. So Terrestrial. So I hope in your 4th standard you have studied about the animal living and surviving in that lesson, right? So the animals that live in land are called as terrestrial, and the animals that they live in the water, they are called as aquatic, and animals that they always fly on the sky, they are all called as aerial, right? So these are all the habitat places for the animals, right? So a natural home or an environment of an animal is called as habitat, right? So now let's see some animals that they live in forest. So we can see zebras and giraffe, zebra. So they live in the land, right? So they live on the land, so they live in the forest. So forest is a habitat for zebra or the giraffe. And then lion also is a habitat, lion also live in the forest, right? So lion and what is this? Bat, right? So this is a bat. So bat, lion, they live inside a den. Like a cave, in the cave, right? So Goga Madri they will say, right? So inside that we can see bats and lion, they live inside the cave. Next one, we can see monkeys and birds also in the forest. So monkeys and birds, they spend most of the time on the trees, right? So that is why they are called as arboreal. So in your 4th standard I think you learnt about arboreal, right? So arboreal is the animals, they spend most of the time on the trees. So monkeys, birds, birds, so they live in the forest, right? And then snake, rabbit, they also live in the forest. They make a burrow, like they make a hole inside the soil, inside the ground, and they live inside the burrow, right? So snake and rabbit, they live in the forest and they make a burrow and they will live inside the burrow, right? So these are the animals that they live in the forest. So in the forest, what are the animals that we saw? We saw zebra, giraffe, lion, bat live inside the caves, right? And then birds, monkey, snake, rabbit, right? So these are the animals that they have forest as a habitat, right? Now let's see what are the animals that they live in the desert. So animals like camel. So this is what animal? This is camel, right? So we can see camel only in a desert, right? So we cannot see camel in a polar regions or in a forest, right? So camel habitat is desert. Ground squirrel. So this animal name is called as ground squirrel. Ground ground squirrel, squirrel. So ground squirrel. And this snake is called as rattlesnake, rattle, rattlesnake. And this animal name is called as fennec fox, Fennec, fennec fox. So these animals, they live in the desert. So in your 1 marks or in the name the following, they will ask questions, what are the animals that they live in the desert? So you can pick any 2 of these animals and you can write. Which spelling is easy for you, you can take up that animal and you can write. So what are the animals that they live in the desert habitat? Camel, ground squirrel, rattlesnake and fennec fox, right? So now let's see the next habitat, polar region. So polar region, it is extremely hot. So what are the animals that they live in the polar region? Example, polar bear. So polar bear, what is this? Yes, penguin. And then this one, seals. And this one, walrus. So these animals, they live in the polar regions, right? So what are the animals that live in the polar region? polar bear, penguin, walrus, seals, right. So, these animals have the polar region as a habitat, right. So, they live in the polar region and they grow in that place and they develop their families in that places. So, that is why these animals they live in the polar regions. Now, let us see in fresh water. So, in fresh water means mostly in the lakes or in the rivers, right. So, what are the animals that they have fresh water as their habitat? Example, crane. So, C-R-A-N-E, crane, duck, D-U-C-K, duck, swan, S-W-A-N, swan, toad, T-O-A-D, toad, frog, F-R-O-G, frog, and salamander, S-A-L-A-M-A-N-D-E-R. So, salamander is a type of lizard. It is like a lizard, forest lizard, kaattu ballinu solluvaanga illaya. So, like that it is a salamander. They live in the fresh water. They live in the rivers or in the lakes, right. So, what are the animals that they have fresh water as a habitat? Yes, crane, swan, toad. Toad is nothing but tere they will say, right. And then duck, frog. So, they live in the freshwater habitat. Next one, these animals they live in the ocean, right. So, now let us see what are the animals that they live in the ocean habitat. So, ocean is a place where it is full of salty water and it is the maximum amount of space occupied in the earth, right. So, we can see a large number of animals that live in the ocean. For example, jellyfish, this one is seahorse, octopus, and even the biggest, which is the largest animal in the earth. So, generally if not on the land, so generally which is the largest animal in the world means it is whale, right. So, even the whale they live in the ocean, right. So, this one is octopus, right. So, now let us write what are the animals that they live in the ocean. So, jellyfish, this one is seahorse, octopus, even we can see some more fish also, right, and then whale, dolphins. So, these animals they live in the ocean. So, ocean is a habitat for these animals, right. So, in your 1 marks or 2 marks they may ask what are the 2 animals that they live in the oceans, or they may ask what are the 2 animals that live in desert or in the polar regions, like that. So, you have to answer the name of the animals. So, now children, after you watch the video, in the below description you can find a Google Drive link. If you just click it, you will get the lesson related study material, question bank and self assessment. So, download it and take the study material and copy in your science subject note, right. So, your study material will be comprises of the Romans of choose it, fill up, and then you have the match the following and write true or false, name the following. So, you have questions like, for example, see here we have asked any 2 animals that live in desert or 2 animals that live in ocean. So, like that they will ask creative questions. So, in your book back some questions will be there and some questions added as a creative questions in your study material, right. So, copy that also in your subject note and read all that. So, what is habitat? So, you have to explain. So, the place where an animal lives naturally is called habitat, right. So, like that you have to explain, and this is your 5 mark, right. So, 5 mark, and you have a diagram also. You have to draw the structure of the fish, right. So, these are all the study materials. In this class, in your 7th lesson, that is in your science subject book, in your 7th lesson is about animal world. So, in this lesson you learnt about what is habitat, right. So, habitat means a place where an animal lives naturally is called habitat, right, and we saw what are the types of habitat. So, many habitats we saw, for example, desert, polar regions, ocean, freshwater habitat, mountains, forest. these are all the types of the habitat, and we saw some animals that they live in these type of habitats. So, any two animals we can say for each habitat. So, in forest we can see animals like giraffe and zebra, right, and in polar regions we can see polar bear or penguin, right, and in desert region we can see camel or fennec fox, or you can write even the rattlesnake. And in fresh water habitat we can see animals like frog, crane, swan. So, they live in the freshwater habitat. And in ocean, so in the ocean we can see animals like whale, octopus, seahorse. So, these animals they live in the ocean, right. So, they live in the ocean habitat, right. So, these are the things that you learned in this class. I hope this class is useful for you. So, take some more information about the habitat and do a activity by yourself by pasting the animal pictures in that particular habitats, right. So, thank you children for watching. Have a good day.